Good morning, everyone. It's 10 o'clock, and I would like to call this special meeting of the Lansing School District Board of Education to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Dr. Boddy? Dr. Burrows?
Here.
Ms. Hodgen? Mrs. Lawrence?
Here.
Mrs. Lilje?
Here.
Mr. Lopez?
Hi. Present.
Mrs. Moore?
Here.
Dr. Rodriguez?
Present.
Mrs. Willis?
Present.
And I see Dr. Boddy. Quorum is present.
Thank you. Any additions to the agenda this morning? Any public comment, Lynette? Okay. Before we get started this morning, I have a couple of comments that I would like to make if you'll indulge me. Good morning again, everyone. Thank you for joining us. There are strong feelings for and against each candidate. There are strong feelings among board members, Lansing School District staff, and community members. And I'm truly sorry that today's decision will disappoint some of us. But, and I'm speaking to my board colleagues here, when we leave this meeting today, we leave as one. This is our time around our theoretical horseshoe to discuss our differences of opinion and advocate for the candidate who we think will do the best job. But when this meeting is over, we will move forward as one Board of Education in support of and in solidarity with our new superintendent. To the community, again, I know that some of you will be disappointed, but what I want you to know beyond the shadow of a doubt is that each of these 9 board members is doing what they think is best for the district. Please don't question their dedication or their motivation, because we are asking them to do thankless work with extremely important results. To Lansing School District staff, we are one family, always. We hear you and we see you. During our meeting on Thursday evening, there was a question asked by a board member that was inappropriate. I will not identify the question and I will not identify the board member, but I want to apologize to the candidates and to the community for not immediately calling it out. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. With that, let's lighten the mood a little bit. We'll turn it over to Jay Bennett.
Thank you, President Lawrence. Good morning, everybody. So I would like to start with, excuse me, if you remember correctly, we talked a little bit about it on Thursday night, but I don't think we really dug too deeply into it. So I would like to turn it back over to President Lawrence to just kind of go over the things that she found and heard when she did her reference checks. So President Lawrence.
So Jay, if it's okay, I'll just do kind of a broad overview of what I heard from.
Perfect.
Okay. So when I did my reference checks for Mr. Schuldener, there was a lot of discussion about how the high school of which he was the principal was so high performing that people tried to kind of get closer to him and get into his mind and understand what he was doing that was so different. There was a lot of conversation that he was a good delegator. He was a good team builder. One of his references told me that he is super approachable. He enjoys community involvement. I think that's really clear that he's very approachable. He's very outgoing. He's qualified because he's really seen the largest school district in the country from so many different vantage points. He's worked with other districts and superintendents. He's a creative problem solver. He can schmooze. He can talk to a lot of different people. He's good at finding common ground. He has a strong sense of vision and purpose. He, again, is a creative problem solver, thinks of creative ways to get things done. There was discussion that he was instrumental in trying to further diversity among the student population at the college where he is a professor. And he was engaged in recruiting some new students with the intention of both increasing enrollment, but also increasing diversity among that population. For, give me a moment, please. Mrs. Benavides. I thought one of the really interesting references who she used was a parent. So this parent's child was enrolled at Sheridan Road when Mrs. Benavides was the principal at Sheridan Road. And I asked this parent, why do you think Mrs. Benavides would be a good superintendent? And she said very simply, she's an awesome leader. She loves the district. She loves the kids. This parent also happened to be a lunchroom attendant while her child was attending Sheridan Road. And she said she was able to witness the way that Mrs. Benavides interacted with the staff at Sheridan Road. And as we've heard before, she was beloved. She was a strong leader. She was inspirational. The parent said at one point the district misplaced some paperwork. I'm not sure if it was related to employment or enrollment of her child, but she said Mrs. Benavides solved the problem, which she didn't think was really within the realm of the principal responsibilities, but she said Mrs. Benavides didn't hesitate to do that herself. Some other references made comment of people seem to wonder if Jessica is ready for this responsibility. And they've all broadly said that she's wise beyond her years. Her life experiences have given her a unique and interesting understanding, not only of our population in Lansing, but of her own skills with how to relate to people and how to bring people together. She's got good ideas that she could blossom into incredible vision for the district. She's devoted to the district. Clearly, she's been here a long time. She has deep roots here in the Lansing community. Her entire family has deep roots here. She grew up here, lives here, is raising her family here, is a long-standing member of the community. And I'll leave it at that, Jay.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for President Lawrence about any of the reference checks or anything that she heard from those that she reached out to?
I do. Any critical feedback or question marks or areas of, yeah. I didn't think so, but you have to ask.
Right, sure. I think if somebody's going to give a criticism of you during a reference check, that's probably not the best person for you to make a reference.
You would be surprised how often that has happened. Okay. Oh, yeah, no, seriously, it's crazy. All right. Any other questions for President Lawrence on the reference checks? All right. So, Lynette, is it possible that I could have permission to share the screen, please?
Yes, one moment.
Thank you. There we go. So I just want to take a minute to kind of bring us back to where we all kind of started on this. So if you remember, way back when we started this process, one of the first things we did was we established this criteria of the types of things that you as a board and a community and staff had reported back through the surveys and the public comment opportunity, stakeholder input sessions, the things that you were looking for in your next superintendent. So I'm not going to read the entire document here. I just want to point out a couple key points here just to kind of remind you all the things that you said you were looking for in your superintendent candidates. So Lansing School District seeking a superintendent who will work with the Board of Education to continue its implementation of cutting-edge initiatives while also supporting student growth and strengthening relationships with community stakeholders. You were looking for someone that promotes a culture of learning both in the classroom and at home. You were looking for somebody that had successful experience working with diverse urban communities, K-12 classroom teaching experience, master's degree plus administrative required, PhD or EDD preferred, You're looking for someone that had a proven track record of raising student achievement, someone that embodies the highest degree of moral, professional, ethical behaviors, someone that was exceedingly responsive, that follows up and follows through. You were looking for someone that was able to develop and lead effective executive administrative teams, someone that would foster a culture of accessibility and responsiveness in communication systems, someone that would employ consensus building as part of a comprehensive decision-making process, someone that had experience in building relationships with employee groups. So just highlights of the types of things that you as a board, community, and staff had come together and agreed these were the things that we were looking for in our applicants. So just wanted to refresh your memory on those. What I'd like to do now is just kind of give anyone on the board an opportunity to put forth anything that they heard or read about in the community feedback, either from the open houses that we hosted or any of the feedback that came through after the interviews. Does anyone have anything to share there that they saw or heard that they would like to make sure that the rest of the board was aware of? Nathan?
So this is a little, I don't think it's a tangent. I think it's really important though. So I paid very close attention to the public feedback that we were getting and to the conversations that I've heard in the community. And before we get into the details of the strengths and weaknesses of each candidate and moving towards a decision, I want us to all take a deep breath and consider the issue of implicit sexism. I was very concerned that there was a perception that one of the candidates had significantly less experience than the other in terms of readiness. And I worry sometimes that there's a presumption that the white male candidate's more qualified. Neither of these candidates has any experience running a school district. And we need to keep that in the forefront of our mind. From my perspective, that puts them at kind of an even keel, right? One has a diversity of experiences around a lot of different educational and geographic areas. The other one's more focused in one area and in a traditional setting here in Lansing. But I want us all to be really, really careful on that because I want us to make a decision for the right reasons and not let our own implicit biases color our evaluations of the candidates. That has nothing to do with who we should pick and who we should prefer, and that's no criticism on Mr. Schuldiner. I was just a little worried about that when I was looking at the feedback. The number of times that I saw experience gaps and readiness brought up when I don't really see a real difference between the two candidates on that metric. So thank you for letting me just sort of get that off my chest.
Absolutely. Anything else that came through in the open houses or the feedback from the interviews or anything that you saw? I assume some of you watched the open house videos and saw those interviews with the candidates.
I do have a question if I can speak. I don't know, I hope this doesn't offer anything, but I did notice there was feedback about Ms. Benavides' children not being in a district. I don't know if this is an appropriate question to ask, so please tell me if I'm off or not. If you could chime in.
Robin, it's fine. Sam, do you want to address that? If you don't want to, Sam, that's okay, and I can.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So I've known for years that Mrs. Benavides' children attend Grand Ledge schools. I was not clear on whether they were there because they live in the Grand Ledge district or if they were there under choice. Evidently, Mrs. Benavides' children attended Catholic school when they were much younger, and then for a time attended Geyer Park and attended Sheridan Road when she was the principal there. As you might imagine, their mom being the principal at their school was tricky, was difficult to navigate, and led to some bullying of Mrs. Benavides' children. So they made a family decision to enroll the kids in a different district to just really let them develop their own identity. I know that that is not the decision that many of us would make. However, That is a private decision. She's certainly entitled to make that decision. That's not a disqualifier. And I will remind people that we have had elected officials and elected officials of this body who were sitting board members who chose to enroll their kids in a different school district. Just for the record.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for asking that, Mrs. Moore.
No problem.
Anything else on any of the community feedback or the open houses? Okay, President Lauren. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I guess I would just say thank you to the public for being so engaged during this process, for providing us with the feedback. My impression of the feedback was that in many respects, it opened my eyes to things that maybe I didn't see the first time, but in many respects, it confirmed some of the feelings that I had about what I wanted to do moving forward regarding who I'm ultimately going to vote for. So I just want to say thank you for the personal emails, as well as for going online and filling out the response forms. It really did help me, and I'm sure it helped everyone else on the board, inform our decision making.
So I guess my next question to all of you is, do any of you have any questions that you need answered before you are ready to render a decision? So is there any lingering question out there, any kind of information that you don't feel you have enough of, anything that you're just kind of like, I'm not quite sure if I'm ready yet because I need an answer to this? Is there anything out there that's still hanging out there that you would like to put out there? Okay, not seeing any. I will turn it back over to President Lawrence.
Thanks. Am I asking for a motion?
That is completely up to you, but that would be a logical next step.
Jay, you've indicated, correct me if I'm wrong, that we would have the ability essentially to vote more than once today, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Dr. Body?
I have just a procedural question. Are we going to make a motion and then discuss the merits of the motion and discuss the pros and cons? Or are we going to discuss the pros and cons first and then make a motion?
I think we should make a motion first, and then we can have discussion around that motion.
Madam,
Body?
In that case, I would like to make a motion that the Lansing School Board formally nominate Benjamin Schuldiner to be our next superintendent.
Do I have support?
Yes, second.
It's been moved by Dr. Body, supported by Mr. Lopez. Who would like to start discussion? Dr. Body, go ahead.
I guess I should, since I made the motion. I am extremely thankful that we have two strong candidates, and that's not like a political thing to say. That's an honest thing to say. The weaknesses for both of them are the same. Neither of them have been a superintendent. And however, I'm really enthralled with some of the things in Mr. Schuldiner's past that I think would translate well to being a superintendent, whether it's his history of being a consultant for superintendents across the country, whether it's his national and international experience working with schools, whether it's his experience of being an elected member of a school board in like the largest city in the country. So I think that he brings a unique perspective where I don't think he would just come in and wholesale change everything and make us lose the progress that we've made. But I think it would be a refreshing way to give us a sort of shot in the arm from my perspective with some new ideas and new perspectives. So that being said, I hope it's not out of place for me to say that if he gets the job, if you all agree with the motion that I made, that I hope that Jessica would be willing and that he would be also willing to have her stay in a strong leadership capacity, deputy superintendent perhaps, and just putting that out there. But that I hope that the district would be able to benefit from both of these individuals for the foreseeable future.
Mrs. Willis?
Thank you. A point that's been made several times is that we have candidates that this would be their inaugural superintendency position. And both candidates have learning curves that they are going to have to experience in order to move into the position of being the chief operator of our district. When I think about things that I would like to not have to worry about there being in the learning curve, it is helping a superintendent understand the dynamics of Lansing. And I don't want to discount the fact that Mr. Schuldiner certainly has the capacity to learn. And I think he spoke very passionately about his investment and desire to be in Lansing. Lansing, as expressed by Mr. Schuldiner, is a destination dream position that he would like to be in as superintendent. And I certainly appreciate that passion and certainly appreciate the fact that he's stuck with this process. I looked back, we've interviewed him 3 times in a year, twice in person. That's a lot of investment into a job that you want. And so I have I'm not surprised one bit that he has shown us a great picture of himself. However, I think this district has made a lot, and this board has made a lot of comments about wanting to invest in our own, wanting to support homegrown leadership. And for the reasons of my concern that there's the learning curve, I'm not interested in having to, let me rephrase this. When we have an internal candidate that has the strengths of Lansing and knowing what the dynamics are within our community, that to me hedges out the experience of someone who maybe is extremely passionate and desires the position, but is external to the community.
Ms. Fulci?
Thank you. I just want to echo all the gratitude to this board, this district. I appreciate the fact that we can have debates and disagree and still remain respectful and kind to each other. And this is a big deal. I know all of us are feeling the pressure. I just wanted to echo again the sentiments that Dr. Body said to the community. I know everybody was shaking their heads, but thank you to all who have been spending all their time tuning in and filling out forms and sending emails and calling and texting. It's a really important and wonderful that people are engaged and invested. So thank you for all of that. Just a lot of gratitude all around the virtual horseshoe as well. Thank you to my colleagues and to the officers. So I have a little bit of a different take on things because I was an outsider coming into the Lansing School District, and it seems, I remember Dr. Burrows saying this, one of the biggest things between these two candidates is the debate about, inside versus outside. And I think that we should actually be trying to understand how to educate people on the dynamics of Lansing so they will feel comfortable to come here. And I'm not just talking about hiring an outside superintendent candidate. I'm talking about getting into the headspace of somebody who's not an insider here to figure out how to serve them so that they will come. And, I was one of those people that ended up in the district by accident and was just blown away at every turn. Like, how come I didn't know how amazing this was? Well, I think partly it's because we don't have a sense about how to reach out to outsiders in a way that goes, you could be comfortable here. You could see yourself here. You could, and I think starting with a superintendent that has that perspective could be extremely valuable for us in terms of growing enrollment. And if I say that also with the hope that we would continue to keep a lot of our leadership that is here already, because, it's not like we need both. I think we need both things happening. We need people who are homegrown, who are really interested in staying here and continuing their investment, their lifelong investment in the district. And we need some outside, perspective. I think when those two things come together, we have what is best for the district. So that's why I feel like I'm in support. I feel like Dr. Body, I'm in support of Ben Schuldiner. Thank you.
Dr. Burrows,
How did you know?
I see your face.
She's figured me out. So first of all, I want to say that this has been, and I think I speak for everybody on the board, a really difficult decision and a lot of things to think through. It's been very challenging. Sometimes these sorts of decisions, you sort of make your list and you think it through and it becomes really clear and the answer kind of emerges. This one I really wrestled with for a while. And I think most of my colleagues I've talked to about this, that it's just been sort of trying to sort it out. And for me, there are really two factors. One is there's the external and internal debate. And a lot of that has to do with your appetite for risk. I know there's a lot of concern that people have, including people who work in the district, partly based on past experiences, that sometimes external candidates hit the reset button, bring in a new team, you got to start from scratch. And as an education researcher, I know how important it is to try and build on what you've already accomplished. And I think everybody that's on the board agrees with that sentiment, but it's sort of like, what's your appetite for risk? So I think that internal external debate, I think it's totally fair for people to go either way on it, right? I think that's what's driving a lot of people's decisions about it. For me, the other thing is the big skill difference between the candidates, for me, from my perspective, setting the internal externals aside, is that Schuldiner has really strong communication and public presentation skills, right? That's his big asset. Whereas, from my perspective, the administrative experience working in a large district, though not being in charge of a large district, that's really the asset that, there's a clearer record for Mrs. Benavides. So the thing that really pushes me in the direction of being more supportive of Benavides is I think the communication skill sets are fairly easy to learn. It's not hard to learn those things. So I'm looking at a situation where I've got, okay, I know that one's got administrative capacities that have been demonstrated, and the other one, it's harder to learn the administrative part without falling on your face. Whereas the communications, anybody can learn that. So I think that for me personally is sort of the decision point. So that's why I'm moderately more in favor of Mrs. Benavides, but I'm also very eager to hear what all of my other colleagues have to say.
Thank you. Dr. Rodriguez?
Thank you. Thank you very much. To be an insider for 50 years and to be elected a few months ago, I am here to represent the people who sent me to the board. I also responsible for all of you, but I am really some kind of disappointed with what this board had been done for the last few years. Then my dream for this district is a dream that is coming only from the superintendent and from every board member. And I think our role in the future had to change. Had to go out of the personal feelings and personal behavior and personal interests and go for the kids and for the community. Regardless who the superintendent is going to be, this board has responsibility for the district. And I hope that starting today, we exercise not only the responsibility of take control of the budget that we don't, but also we select the superintendent, but also do we have a vision for our district in the new era that is coming soon, and we are already there. About the candidates, I have been suffering for a long time in the last few days. But suffering is not that bad when you think that you are going to vote for the person that you think they can do the best job. Both of them are very high in my appreciation for them. And at this time, I'm inclined for Dr. Holdiner, but I am willing to go with what every other board member wants to do. And I appreciate this conversation and dialogue we're having, because here is what we are going to make the decision together. Then I want to say that. I want to thank the public for their interest in our district and their sincere cooperation and collaboration in selecting that person. I think the future is what really bothered me, and both candidates, I have to thank them for what they told us and what they want to do. Then I will continue listening to everyone and see how it happens in a few minutes.
Mr. Lopez?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I should have gone before Dr. Rodriguez, because he said basically what I was going to say is that regardless of the superintendent, and at this point I am leaning towards Dr. B. I'll call him Dr. B. Schuldiner is kind of hard for me. At any rate, I think that this board needs to exercise its authority and work with the superintendent, whoever it may be. Remember, Yvonne said we're a team of 10. The superintendent is a member of the team, and as such, the board needs to guide that superintendent what we want. Now we have our pathways, we have the promise, we have all that has been constructed, and we should be strong in keeping, certainly reinforce it or better it or whatever. But I think we have a plan that needs to continue, and the board's responsible for that. And working with the superintendent, we can make that happen. It's not whether he brings new ideas and we're just going to say, okay, go ahead. I think we have a clear view of what our district needs to go and what it has that needs to improve, obviously. But I think that working as a team, we can do that. So I think Dr. Rodriguez mentioned that in a different way, and certainly probably in a better way. But we need to keep on track, help each other, and help the superintendent accomplish the goals for the district. And I think that the community input that I read talked a lot about that, where we're going, how we're going, how can we get there, and how can we improve certain things. So I thank the community as well, and for helping us, or helping me anyway, make this decision. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mrs. Willis?
I have a question, and it may be a little bit like too late on the 11th hour, but did we do any explicit polling of our executive team or solicit direct feedback explicitly from the executive team?
We did not.
What is exactly that mean? What this question? I want to understand it. That help me to.
So if you think back to a year ago when we started the process after the first round of interviews, we got feedback specifically from the executive team. This year was a little bit different, seeing as how we had 2 candidates who came from the executive team. So I thought it would put them in a difficult position to have to support one of the three candidates that were in the mix until very recently. Does that?
Still, I don't, maybe other board member can explain to me, but we had three candidates, and I equally responsible to all of them, regardless. And I was really disappointed for one of the candidates had to drop for whatever reason. Then for me, all the previous candidates and the last three, all of them, in my eyes, had the same appreciation before this moment.
Well, and I appreciate that. And Madam President, I certainly understand it certainly wouldn't have been, it certainly would not have been appropriate to ask the executive team to select or choose. And I certainly, this is my fault for not asking this on Thursday when it was just one internal, one external candidate to solicit a temperature check on feelings of, to parrot Dr. Burrow's words a little bit, like what their appetite for risk is as well. Because we know the fear of the unknown makes people very, very nervous. And we know right now the executive team is in a lot of fear of the unknown. But it would just be interesting to me to know which direction gives them the least amount of fear. We've talked about wanting to build on what we already have. And it would be very concerning to me of our executive team that is the superintendent may be the heart, but they are every other functioning organ of the body keeping this district going. And it would make me very nervous if every other organ decided to jump ship and needed a replacement. That makes it very difficult to say that we are supporting the idea of building what we already have. And the reality is we can't answer that question on which candidate gives them the least amount of concern.
Jay, am I allowed to talk about who were references for the candidates?
Yeah, I don't know that we need to, I wouldn't get into that too much. I think it is important to recognize that, yes, obviously we want the administrative team and the teachers and all of the staff to be, happy and confident in your decision. But that's the whole point, is that it is ultimately a board decision. And so I think that it's, it would behoove you as a board to think about what you think is going to be the best candidate for the district, given all of these factors. And one of those factors is, who do you think is going to be best to lead the administrative team, the teachers, the staff that you currently have in place?
Sure. Mrs. Moore?
Good morning, everyone. I have been pondering for days about this decision, but I know that it'll be well with everyone once we've made up our mind which direction we're going to go in. I do want to give you all a little bit of history about myself. I have a 27-year-old who graduated from the Lansing School District. So I've been in the school district with children for a long time. When I decided to run for this seat, it was because of the care that I have for our children, for our youth, and for our educators, right? So with that being said, I think about my daughter who's in the 9th grade at Everett High School. It's important to me that she has the best education, all of my children. So I've seen struggles in the Lansing School District. My children have been a part of that, right? And we are doing a fabulous job. I commend the Lansing School District for all the work that has been done thus far. And we have 2, I believe, capable candidates to be a part of the Lansing School District. I wish somehow we can get them in the same space to tag team, because I know we cannot lose with both of them, but I don't know if that's possible. Right now, I would like to continue to listen to what is being said about each candidate. I think that's wisdom. I do have my thoughts about each candidate, but I think that first of all, and I'm speaking for myself, quality education for everyone is important. And I think about the barriers that some of our students have. And I think about the barriers that some of our students don't have and how they can be enriched. Both of our student populations can be enriched, right? So right now I'm at a listen. I want to hear because I'm new to this space with you all, being part of this family, you call us, right? So that means in families, we're going to disagree to agree, right? So I'm new being a part of this family and learning about the dynamics of this team and how we operate, right? So I really am listening and waiting to see which direction that I'll be led in to decide which candidate I feel, based on the evidence and the conversation that we're having, on who would be best for this position. So that's my stance right now at this moment. It's extremely hard. This is like, what childcare do you put your child in, right? That was one of the hardest decisions I had to make. What childcare, what school district? Do I take my children out of the Lansing School District or do I keep them in the Lansing School District? Was I always happy with the Lansing School District? No, I could be transparent. Why? Because I'm accountable to you all, just like you all are accountable to me and the community. The superintendent, they're accountable to us, right? Just like we're accountable to them and everybody that's a part of the Lansing School District. Accountability. So, with that being said, again, I'm listening and I'm at a stance right now. So thank you, Madam President, for the opportunity to speak. I truly appreciate your support also. And that's all that I have right now.
Thank you, Mrs. Moore. Mrs. Hodgen? Mrs. Hodgen, you're muted.
Am I muted now?
We can hear you.
Okay. I have been very impressed by both candidates. I am also torn whether we should go with an insider or should we go with someone with the experience of Dr. Schuldner. But I think I have made up my mind, and so I am ready to vote. They're both very qualified. Jessica or Mrs. Benavides, Ms. Benavides has a terrific career, has done a terrific job, and I admire her very much, have admired her for many years. But I think the gentleman, my preference at this point is from the experience from the gentleman from New York. Yeah, thank you. I also would like to thank all the people that have written and called me and come to my house and send me emails. It has been very interesting and very nice, and I have always loved that about Lansing, is the involvement of people when it comes to selecting people to their different boards. So thank you very much, Lansing, for all your input and your caring. That's about it.
Thank you, Mrs. Hodgen. A few years ago, we hired an external candidate to be superintendent. I know a lot of you were some of you were on the board at that time. That person's tenure ended with the board and the bargaining units working together to terminate his contract early. The district was in a $12 million deficit. It has taken decades of watching every penny, of rebuilding relationships, of rebuilding trust to get the district back to where it is today. That is what happened the last time we hired an external candidate. This board recently passed a resolution to promote equity and equality in our district. Here we have two candidates. One is an internal qualified female candidate. One is an external qualified male candidate. Here we have an opportunity to show our community that when I say we put our money where our mouth is, we are actually doing it. There's been talk that Mr. Schuldiner could come in and Mrs. Benavides could be on the executive team and could work under him. Why is that the default? Why do we go there instead of saying Mrs. Benavides can be the superintendent and Mr. Schuldiner can work for her? I work in a male-dominated field, and I can't tell you the number of times that I walked into a client meeting and the client has said, "We're waiting for the attorney." I'm the attorney. We have an opportunity to show our girls, to show our female students that you are so dedicated to this district. You spend decades working in this district. You have the track record. You have done the work. And now you've taken that ambition and you've applied for the highest job in this district. And the board recognizes that hustle and that work and that dedication. And we want that person who has literally dedicated her entire life to making this district better. We have an opportunity. Dr. Body.
Thank you, President Lawrence. So I feel like I have a responsibility to clarify my comments based on your comments. My thought process is simple. Jessica has devoted her entire career to our district and to improving our district, and I'm very, very grateful for her leadership. But what I also believe is that we shouldn't hold Benjamin's gender against him, meaning that if I believe that he has a wide array of experiences that I think would make him best suited to lead our district, and if I believe that the district and our students and our parents would be better served by bringing in somebody from the outside and taking that risk, calculated risk, that fresh ideas and fresh perspectives and, being a policy expert and having testified at state and federal government levels and having worked with districts across the country, that matters to me. And so that was why I made the comment that I would really like for him to be our superintendent. And I think the district would benefit immensely if Jessica stayed on in a leadership capacity. But notwithstanding that, I believe that his background and what he's done in his life makes him a more attractive candidate to me personally. And I think that our students would be really well served with his experiences as well as his communication, because I am of the opinion that there are some local elected officials who aren't strong communicators, and I don't think they will perhaps ever be. And I think that being a strong communicator is not something that you can necessarily learn. And one of the main jobs of a superintendent is to, through their communication, attract dollars to the district, attract students back to the district, attract businesses to the district, create new partnerships. And I think that our capacity as a district to be able to do that would be enhanced by having Mr. Schuldiner here as our superintendent. Not to discount in any way the fact that Jessica spent her entire career working to improve the district, and that I'm very thankful to her for having done that.
Mr. Lopez.
Thank you, Madam President. You know, speaking about diversity and inclusion, in the last years that I've been here, we've had a Black female superintendent. We've had a Black male superintendent. We've had a white female superintendent. We did not make a decision because of COVID. And fortunately, we had Mr. Sanson Cropey to pitch in and help us through this pandemic. So now we're faced with two white individuals, one male, one female. They both have their strengths. And I think that we need to look at the big picture. Certainly inclusion and diversity are important, but I think that some of the things that Dr. Buddy mentioned, we need to make the best decision for the children of the district and for our families. And based on what I've seen from their comments and other comments that I've had, it would be a good choice to bring Mr. Ben as our superintendent to help us all and help the community. I think he's invested in DEI, I'm sorry. So I think we can continue that work. Clearly we can, because that is the wish of the board as well. So I do appreciate both candidates, strong candidates, and I'm hoping that they could work together as well. So I think that we can continue as a board to be what we need to be for our district and for our students, and talk and work and live DEI for our district. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Dr. Burrows.
You're muted, Nathan.
Yay, this time it was me. So I just want to say that a lot of these issues are extraordinarily difficult to talk about. And it's very, very easy to get heated and get dug in, particularly when there are strong feelings about candidates, or there's issues that, like the issue of gender equity and gender inclusion, that we feel really super strongly about. But I want to commend everybody for how nobody thus far has let the temperature go up or gotten too dug in, and everybody's been very complimentary of both candidates and recognize what an incredibly difficult and challenging decision this is for a lot of us. So I just want to commend everybody for being as respectful as we've been so far, and I'm sure we can continue no matter what happens.
Mr. Burrows must not have heard my previous comment. Mr. Lopez, do you have another comment, or is your hand just still up? There you go. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, we are voting on the motion to enter into contract negotiations with Ben Schuldiner. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Nice. Dr. Body,
Yes.
Dr. Burrows,
No.
Mrs. Hodgen, Mrs. Hodgen,
Unmute, Mrs. Hodgen.
Yes.
Mrs. Lawrence,
No.
Mrs. Lilgy,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Dr. Rodriguez, Dr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mrs. Willis,
No.
yes, 3 no.
Okay, motion is adopted.
Nathan's got his hand up.
Dr. Burrows?
My understanding is we'd have an opportunity to talk about this a little bit more and possibly make a second vote.
Jay?
Yes.
I think it's very important for all of us to make a clear statement on this about the support for the successful candidacy.
Mrs. Willis?
I certainly appreciate that. And I'll say this, we have a clear majority vote to adopt and move into contract negotiations. As we mentioned, we are a professional, respectful board, and our statement is with our motion. Once a motion has passed, that is the answer of the board. I can tell you as a board member who voted not in favor of this motion, that I certainly support and will respect the will of my colleagues and enter into a relationship with the superintendent in good faith and looking forward to opportunities, but a recast of the vote is not going to change my vote. And so the goal is to get us to a unanimous vote. I don't think it's going to be necessary to recast votes, but I certainly think that that is up to the will of the board if we want to take another opportunity to vote again, but we already have a majority.
Dr. Rodriguez?
Thank you. I do appreciate then, but we agree before we voted that we will have another vote if necessary. Then if some people want to change their vote, they can do it. If the rest of the vote, or the rest of the members of the board decide that it's okay the way we are right now, fine. But what we were talking before was what Dr. Burr was talking about. Now, if we have a motion to say we close the whole thing and we finish right now here, fine. But that was not our previous conversations.
Mary Kay, should we make another motion entirely?
You're muted.
Mary Kay, you're muted.
I would recommend that there be a motion to reconsider, and then somebody could make either motion. If there were enough votes to reconsider, then they could make a motion either direction.
Okay. Okay. So we'll make a motion essentially on whether or not we want to have another vote.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Would anyone like to make a motion to reconsider?
I would like to make a motion to reconsider the previous question.
Support.
It's been moved by Dr. Burrows, supported by Mrs. Lilje. Will the clerk please call any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Dr. Body?
Yes.
Dr. Burrows?
Yes.
Ms. Hodgen?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawrence?
Yes.
Mrs. Lilje?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yeah.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Dr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mrs. Willis?
No.
Motion passes.
Thank you. So now should we just restate the previous motion entirely?
Now somebody would move to either retain the services of Mr.
Okay.
Sheldon or Ms. Benavides.
Dr. Body, do you want to restate your motion?
Sure, thank you. I move that the Lansing School District enter into contract negotiations with Benjamin Sheldon to be our next superintendent.
Second.
Support.
It's been moved by Dr. Body, supported by Mr. Lopez. Any discussion?
I just want to say briefly, I hope people don't think that I'm being idiosyncratic about this. This was a difficult decision for me, but I think it's very important for me personally to state that I'm willing to give even the candidate I didn't support the benefit of the doubt and my full support moving forward, which is why I care very deeply about the opportunity to reconsider and cast a vote in his favor. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Dr. Burrows. Any further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Dr. Body,
Yes.
Dr. Burrows,
Yes.
Ms. Hodgen,
Yes.
Mrs. Lawrence,
No.
Mrs. Lilji,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Dr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mrs. Willis.
No.
Yeses have it.
Thank you. Any other discussion from the board this morning? Jay, anything else?
Thank you very much. Congratulations on your decision to enter into contract negotiations successfully with your chosen candidate. President Lawrence, if you would like to just have a quick discussion with me offline, and then we can talk about next steps.
Okay. Dr. Body?
What are the next steps? Just because this is my first time going through this process to this step.
Sure. So next steps will be to notify both of our applicants as to the board decision. And so I will just talk President Lawrence through that process. And then I will issue a press release to the district that the district can then distribute widely as to the decision of the board. And next steps is going to be you as a board determining who you would like to be part of your negotiations team to then start the contract negotiations with Ben. And then once that contract has been settled, the contract will come back to the full board for approval or not.
Mr. President, Madam President,
Dr. Rodriguez?
the night made you a real lawyer now. Thank you very, very much. And I think that we should all happy because we went through a difficult process and the train is moving. Then thank you to everyone of the board members. I would suggest, if we are not discussing that later, that we don't give more than 2 years contract to the new superintendent. With an
We can
evaluation.
discuss that. We can discuss that later, Doc.
Okay. And second, I want to thank Jay Benson and the organization for all the work that they put in that. I'm sure everybody is. But more important is continue DEI and what our institution needs. I think we need to work together. Thank you. And, I am not happy for a winner or a loser. I am not happy for that. I am concerned, still very concerned in what the district direction is going to be. I'm very concerned about that. And I don't think the superintendent alone can do it.
Any other comments from the board this morning? Okay, at 11:03, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.